On the wild frontier, a Comanche warrior discovers a mother and her child caught in the middle of danger. But what he learns changes everything. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The harsh sun beat down on the Texas prairie as Running Wolf rode across the open plains. The year was 1873, and tensions between the Comanche tribe and white settlers were at their peak. As a respected warrior of his people, Running Wolf had been tasked with scouting the perimeter of their territory after reports of encroachment from nearby settlers. The wind carried the scent of smoke to his nostrils, causing him to pull his painted horse to a halt. He narrowed his eyes against the glare of the midday sun, scanning the horizon carefully. There, in the distance, a thin column of smoke rose from behind a cluster of cottonwood trees near the creek. Strangers, he muttered to himself in his native tongue, guiding his horse cautiously toward the source. As he approached, the sounds of distress reached his ears. A woman's voice, high-pitched and desperate. Running Wolf dismounted, tethering his horse to a scrub oak before proceeding on foot. Moving silently through the tall grass, he crept to the edge of a small clearing. What he saw made him pause. A small cabin stood in the clearing, its wooden door splintered and hanging from a single hinge. Outside, a white woman with long auburn hair knelt in the dirt, arms wrapped protectively around a small child. 3 rough-looking men circled them like hungry wolves. "Please," the woman begged, her voice cracking. "Take whatever you want, but leave us alone." The largest of the men, sporting a scraggly beard and dusty black hat, laughed cruelly. "Well now, Mrs. Sullivan, what we want is this land. Your husband made a mistake settling here, and his absence makes it mighty convenient for us to claim what should have been ours." "My husband will return soon," she lied, her arms tightening around the child. Running Wolf could see the fear in her eyes, but there was something else there too: determination. The child in her arms appeared to be around 5 years old, with unusual features that caught the Comanche warrior's attention. The boy's eyes were slightly slanted, his complexion darker than his mother's, and his black hair straight as an arrow. "That half-breed child ain't gonna save you," another man spat. "Jackson wants this land cleared of all squatters by the end of the week, and that includes Injun lovers like you." Running Wolf's hand moved to the knife at his waist. The Comanche had no love for white settlers, but these men were something worse. Land grabbers who respected no boundaries, neither those of the native people nor their own kind. The leader grabbed the woman's arm, yanking her to her feet. "Time to go, Mrs. Sullivan. We'll escort you to the nearest town after we burn this place to the ground." The child began to cry, clutching at his mother's skirts. "Mama, no!" Something in Running Wolf shifted as he watched the scene unfold. Perhaps it was the mixed-blood child, caught between 2 worlds like so many others. Perhaps it was the woman's courage, facing these men alone on the frontier. Without further hesitation, he stepped into the clearing, his presence immediately commanding attention. The men froze, hands moving to their pistols. "Comanche," one of them hissed, drawing his weapon. Running Wolf spoke in clear, accented English. "This woman and child under my protection now. You go." The leader laughed nervously. "Look here, savage, this ain't your business. These squatters are on white man's land." "No," Running Wolf replied firmly. "This land belonged to Comanche. You trespassed twice, on my people and on this woman." The standoff lasted only moments before the first shot was fired. Running Wolf moved with the speed and grace that had earned him his name, ducking the bullet and closing the distance to the shooter in 3 long strides. His knife flashed in the sunlight as the other men scrambled to aim their weapons. The woman, seizing the moment of confusion, pulled her child behind the water trough for protection. From her skirt pocket, she produced a small Derringer pistol, evidence that frontier life had taught her to be prepared. The skirmish was brief but violent. When it ended, 2 of the men lay wounded in the dirt, while their leader had fled on horseback, disappearing into the prairie. Running Wolf turned to the woman, who still aimed her small pistol at him with trembling hands. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she stood her ground, shielding the child behind her. "I not harm you," he said, slowly sheathing his knife and raising his empty hands. "These men bad. They return with more." She lowered the gun slightly. "Why would you help us?" Running Wolf's gaze moved to the child, who peered around his mother's skirts with curious eyes rather than fear. "The boy," he said simply. "He has Comanche blood." The woman's expression changed, a complex mixture of surprise, defensiveness, and, finally, resignation. His father was killed 3 months ago. Cattle traders found him on the North Trail. Running Wolf nodded solemnly. "Your husband?" "Yes," she whispered. "Thomas Sullivan. He wasn't the boy's natural father, but he loved him as his own." Her voice broke. "Thomas adopted Benjamin after I was widowed from my first marriage." Running Wolf studied the child more carefully now. The boy's features spoke of mixed heritage, but there was something in his eyes that stirred a distant memory. "You and boy not safe here," he said finally. "Those men return. You come with Running Wolf to camp until danger pass." Fear flashed across her face. "To a Comanche camp? They'll kill us." "No," he assured her. "Chief Gray Eagle wise man. He see truth. Those who protect children honored among my people." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "What your name?" "Sarah," she replied cautiously. "Sarah Sullivan, and this is Benjamin." As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Sarah made her decision. With nowhere else to turn and the threat of the land grabber's return looming, she gathered what few possessions she could carry, and allowed Running Wolf to help her and Benjamin onto his horse. As they rode away from the cabin, Benjamin's small hand reached out to touch Running Wolf's leather tunic, a gesture of innocent trust that spoke louder than words. The Comanche camp sprawled across the valley floor, a collection of teepees arranged in a semicircle facing east toward the rising sun. As Running Wolf approached with Sarah and Benjamin, curious eyes tracked their arrival. Warriors straightened, women paused in their work, and children stopped their play to stare at the unusual sight of a white woman and child entering their midst. Sarah clung tightly to Benjamin, her heart pounding with each step deeper into the camp. The stories she'd heard of Comanche raids and captives haunted her thoughts, but the steady presence of Running Wolf beside her offered a thin thread of reassurance. "Stay close," he murmured. "Chief Gray Eagle's teepee ahead." An elderly woman stepped into their path, her face deeply lined with age and wisdom. She spoke sharply to Running Wolf in their native tongue, gesturing with obvious disapproval at the newcomers. Running Wolf responded calmly, his words measured and respectful. The exchange continued for several moments before the woman's expression softened slightly. She approached Sarah and Benjamin, her dark eyes studying them intently. "This is Singing Bird," Running Wolf explained. "My mother. She asked why I bring white woman to camp." Sarah swallowed hard. "What did you tell her?" "Truth. That men threaten you and boy. That boy has Comanche blood." Singing Bird reached out weathered hands toward Benjamin, who surprised both his mother and Running Wolf by stepping forward without fear. The old woman gently touched the boy's face, tilting it toward the fading sunlight. She spoke again, her voice softer now. Running Wolf nodded. "She say boy has spirit of Comanche. She see it in his eyes." Before Sarah could respond, a commanding voice called out across the camp. A tall, dignified man with gray streaks in his long braided hair approached, flanked by 2 younger warriors. He wore an elaborate headdress of eagle feathers and carried himself with unmistakable authority. "Chief Gray Eagle," Running Wolf said, inclining his head respectfully. The chief's piercing gaze moved from Running Wolf to Sarah and Benjamin. He spoke in Comanche, his tone questioning but not hostile. Running Wolf explained their situation, occasionally gesturing toward the mother and child. Sarah watched anxiously, wishing she could understand what was being said about their fate. Benjamin pressed against her side, suddenly shy in the face of so much attention. After what seemed an eternity, Gray Eagle nodded solemnly and addressed Sarah directly in halting English. "Woman with brave heart welcome. Boy with Comanche spirit welcome. You stay until danger pass." Relief flooded through Sarah's body. "Thank you," she whispered. As darkness fell, Sarah and Benjamin were given space in Singing Bird's teepee. The elderly woman brought them buffalo robes for bedding and a simple meal of dried meat and corn cakes. Though no words passed between them that either could understand, the universal language of hospitality bridged the gap. Later, as Benjamin slept soundly beside her, Sarah sat at the teepee entrance, watching the camp's evening activities. Running Wolf approached, settling beside her with comfortable silence. "Thank you for bringing us here," Sarah finally said. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along. Running Wolf nodded. Those men have no honor. They return to your cabin tonight. Find it empty. Get angry. Burn it. Sarah gasped. How do you know? I sent 2 young warriors to watch. They return with news of fire on horizon. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she thought of the small home she and Thomas had built together, now reduced to ashes. It had been modest, but represented all their hopes for a new beginning after she'd been widowed from her first husband. Benjamin's father, Running Wolf said carefully. He Comanche? Sarah tensed, then slowly shook her head. No, his father was Kiowa. His name was Swift Arrow. She paused, gathering courage to share her story. I was taken captive during a raid 6 years ago. My first husband was killed defending our homestead. I was afraid at first, but Swift Arrow treated me with kindness. He protected me from others who would have been cruel. Running Wolf listened silently, his expression unreadable in the firelight. We grew to care for each other, Sarah continued. When Benjamin was born, Swift Arrow was proud. He believed our son represented hope for peace between our peoples. But there was a skirmish with buffalo hunters. Swift Arrow was killed. How you become free? Running Wolf asked. The army negotiated the release of captives. I returned with Benjamin to white society, but she hesitated. People weren't kind to a woman with a half-Indian child. Thomas was different. He saw Benjamin as a child, not an enemy. We married and moved here to start fresh where no one knew our past. Running Wolf nodded thoughtfully. Benjamin's strong name for boy between 2 worlds. Thomas chose it. It means son of my right hand in the Bible. He truly loved Benjamin as his own. A commotion at the edge of camp interrupted their conversation. 2 warriors rode in at speed, speaking urgently to those they passed. Running Wolf stood immediately. Wait here, he commanded, striding toward the gathering crowd. Sarah watched anxiously as Running Wolf conferred with the newcomers and Chief Gray Eagle. Their expressions grew grave, and several warriors began checking weapons and preparing horses. When Running Wolf returned, his face was grim. Jackson men gather at fort. 20, maybe more. They tell army commander that Comanche steal white woman and child. Say we raid cabin and take captives. That's a lie, Sarah exclaimed. Army not know that. They prepare to ride at dawn. Search for you. Fear clutched at Sarah's heart. What will happen? If army come, find you here. They think you captive, take you away, perhaps attack camp. But I'm here by choice, I could tell them. Running Wolf shook his head. Men like Jackson twist truth. Say Comanche force you to lie. Or worse, say you gone crazy from captivity. Sarah knew he spoke the truth. A white woman living willingly among the Comanche would be incomprehensible to many, and if her history with Swift Arrow became known, she would be branded as something worse. What can we do? She asked desperately. Running Wolf was quiet for a long moment. There is place. Sacred Canyon 3 days ride south, hidden from white men's eyes. Some of our people go there when danger come. You want us to hide? For now, until truth can be shown. He hesitated. Benjamin would be safe there. Sarah glanced back at the sleeping form of her son. Everything she had done since his birth had been to protect him from a world that would judge him for the circumstances of his birth. Now once again they were caught between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. When would we leave? She asked. Before dawn. Few warriors escort. Singing bird come too. She know medicines. Help if needed. As Sarah prepared for sleep that night, her mind raced with fear and uncertainty. Yet beneath those emotions ran a current of something unexpected, a sense that perhaps, in this place so foreign to her, Benjamin might find connection to the heritage that was rightfully his. In the darkness of the teepee, she watched her son sleeping peacefully. His features in repose clearly showed his mixed ancestry, the high cheekbones and straight black hair of his Kiowa father, combined with her own fair skin and delicate nose. A child of 2 worlds, just as Running Wolf had said. I will keep you safe, she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Whatever it takes. The journey to the sacred canyon tested Sarah's endurance beyond anything she had experienced before. For 3 days, their small party traveled through harsh terrain, avoiding open plains where they might be spotted by army patrols. Benjamin, remarkably resilient, rode double with Running Wolf, his small face alight with excitement at the adventure. Singing Bird watched over them both with surprising attentiveness. Though they couldn't communicate through words, the elderly woman showed Sarah techniques for treating saddle sores and brewing pine needle tea rich in vitamins. At night, she told stories in Comanche, her expressive gestures painting pictures that transcended language barriers. "What is she saying?" Sarah asked Running Wolf on the second evening, as they gathered around a small, smokeless fire. Running Wolf listened to his mother's tale before answering. "She tells story of first woman, who came from stars and brought life to people. She say Benjamin remind her of Star Child in old stories, one who bridges worlds." Sarah watched as Benjamin sat entranced by Singing Bird's storytelling. He's never known anything about his Kiowa heritage. His father died before he could teach him. Kiowa and Comanche not same, but cousins in many ways, Running Wolf explained. Stories share common roots. Boy should know both sides of his blood. On the third day, they entered a narrow passage between towering red stone walls. The path twisted and turned, sometimes barely wide enough for a horse to pass. Finally, it opened into a hidden valley nestled between protective cliffs, the sacred canyon Running Wolf had promised. A small stream meandered through the center, feeding lush vegetation that contrasted sharply with the arid landscape they had traversed. Several teepees were already erected near the water, and children played among the cottonwood trees. "Others here already?" Sarah asked in surprise. Running Wolf nodded. "Some families come when sickness spread in main camp last moon. Safer here." He pointed to a flat area near the stream. "We make camp there, water good, shade in afternoon." As they settled into their new temporary home, Sarah noticed how different this smaller camp felt from the main Comanche encampment. Here, amid the protective embrace of the canyon walls, there was a palpable sense of peace. The constant vigilance that had characterized life on the frontier, both in her cabin and in the Comanche camp, seemed to ease. Days passed in a rhythm dictated by sunlight and necessity. Sarah learned to prepare hides under Singing Bird's patient tutelage and discovered that her skills with needle and thread earned her respect among the women. Benjamin thrived in the freedom of canyon life, following the older boys who taught him to fish in the shallow stream and identify animal tracks. One evening, as the sun painted the canyon walls in breathtaking shades of orange and crimson, Running Wolf found Sarah sitting alone on a rocky outcrop watching Benjamin playing below. "He happy here," Running Wolf observed, settling beside her. Sarah nodded. "I've never seen him so free. At our cabin there were no other children. In town the others wouldn't play with him. Children see truth adults forget," he replied. "They know no boundaries until taught them." Sarah studied Running Wolf's profile against the sunset. Over the past days, she had come to appreciate his quiet strength and wisdom. "What will happen when we can't stay here anymore?" Running Wolf was silent for a long moment. "Chief Gray Eagle send message when safe to return." Or, he hesitated. "Or what? Some families choose to stay. Live away from white man's world, away from conflict with army. Canyon provides all needs if one knows how to live with land." Sarah considered his words. The canyon was indeed beautiful and felt safer than anywhere she'd been since Thomas's death. But could she truly abandon the world she knew? And what of Benjamin's future? "I don't know if I could live here forever," she admitted, "but I'm grateful for this sanctuary, however temporary." Running Wolf nodded, understanding in his eyes. Each must choose own path. Their conversation was interrupted by excited shouts from below. Benjamin was racing toward them, his face flushed with excitement. "Mama! Running Wolf! Look what I found!" He held up a small object that caught the fading sunlight. As he reached them, he opened his palm to reveal a beautifully crafted arrowhead of red stone. "Old Man Thunder says it's very old. From the ancient ones." Running Wolf took the arrowhead carefully, examining it with respect. "Good find, Benjamin. This stone sacred, made by ancestors who lived in Canyon many seasons before Comanche. Can I keep it?" Benjamin asked eagerly. Running Wolf handed it back with solemnity. "It found you. Old ways say when sacred object chooses person, strong medicine follows." Benjamin's eyes widened. "Really? What kind of medicine?" "Medicine of belonging. Running Wolf said, ruffling the boy's hair gently. This canyon recognizes you as its child. That night, as Benjamin slept clutching his treasure, Sarah found herself unable to rest. The events of recent weeks had transformed her understanding of her son's heritage. What had once seemed a burden to be concealed now appeared as a gift to be honored. Swift Arrow would have wanted his son to know both sides of his ancestry, to walk with pride between worlds. Her reflections were interrupted by urgent voices outside. Sarah slipped from the teepee to find Running Wolf in serious conversation with a warrior who had clearly ridden hard to reach them. The newcomer's horse stood nearby, flanks heaving and dark with sweat. "What's happened?" she asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Running Wolf turned to her, his expression grave. "Rider, bring news. Jackson men tell army commander you taken against will. Say Benjamin full-blood white child, stolen by Comanche." "That's ridiculous. Benjamin is half Kiowa, and we came with you by choice." "Jackson powerful man. Army captain new to territory, not understand Comanche ways. He believed Jackson because easy story to believe." The messenger spoke again in Comanche, his tone urgent. Running Wolf translated. "He say army offer trade, return you and boy, they not attack main camp." "But we're not captives," Sarah protested. "They not believe. Jackson want your land, need you gone or dead. If say you choose to be with Comanche." He didn't need to finish the thought. Sarah understood the implications all too well. "What can we do?" she whispered. Running Wolf's eyes were troubled as he considered their limited options. "I take you back. Speak truth to Army Captain. They won't believe you either. Then we find proof. Show Jackson men attack your home first." Sarah shook her head hopelessly. "The cabin is burned. There's no proof left." A soft voice interrupted them. Singing Bird had emerged from her teepee and approached silently. She spoke at length to Running Wolf, her weathered hands gesturing emphatically. "What is she saying?" Sarah asked. "She say there is another way. Ancient path through canyon leads to valley beyond. From there, possible to reach trading post at River Bend. Man there, McAllister, fair to all people. He helped before when troubles come." "How far is this trading post?" 2 days hard ride. McAllister known to Army as honest man. His word carry weight." Sarah considered this new possibility. "If we could reach him, explain what really happened." "Yes, he could speak for us, but journey dangerous, path difficult even for Comanche who know way." Sarah looked back at the teepee where Benjamin slept peacefully. Every maternal instinct urged her to keep him in the safety of the canyon, yet she knew they couldn't hide forever. "We'll leave at first light," she decided. Better to face this directly than live in fear. Running Wolf nodded, respect evident in his eyes. "You have courage of Comanche woman." As they prepared for their journey, Sarah wondered if it was courage driving her decisions, or simply the fierce determination of a mother protecting her child. Perhaps in the end, they were one and the same. The ancient path through the canyon was treacherous, winding along narrow ledges where a single misstep meant certain death. Sarah rode with Benjamin secured tightly against her, while Running Wolf led their small party that included Singing Bird and 2 young warriors. The old woman had insisted on accompanying them, arguing forcefully in Comanche until Running Wolf reluctantly translated her demand. "My mother say she have vision. She must come." By midday they had navigated the most dangerous section of the path and descended into a hidden valley lush with unexpected vegetation. A small spring bubbled from the base of a rock formation, creating a peaceful oasis. "We rest horses here," Running Wolf announced. "Continue when sun lower." As they refreshed themselves with cool water and dried meat, Benjamin explored nearby, collecting interesting stones and feathers under Singing Bird's watchful eye. The old woman seemed to have taken a special interest in the boy, teaching him Comanche words and showing him how to identify useful plants. "Your mother seems fond of Benjamin," Sarah observed to Running Wolf. He nodded, a rare smile softening his features. "She say he remind her of someone." "Who?" Running Wolf hesitated. "My younger brother. Lost many winters ago in battle with Osage." Sarah's heart ached at this revelation. "I'm sorry. It was his time." Running Wolf's tone was matter-of-fact, but his eyes revealed deeper emotion. "My mother believes spirits sometimes return in new form. Not same person, but carrying same essence." Sarah watched as Singing Bird showed Benjamin how to weave a small grass figure. What was your brother's name? In your tongue, it translates as little hawk who soars. Running Wolf's voice softened. He curious like Benjamin, never afraid. Their moment of peace was shattered by one of the warriors returning from scouting ahead. He spoke rapidly to Running Wolf, pointing back toward the direction they had come. What is it? Sarah asked, alarm rising in her chest. Riders follow our trail. 6, maybe more, not Comanche. Jackson's men. Running Wolf's expression hardened. Or army. Either way, danger. He issued quick instructions to the others, who immediately began gathering their belongings. We cannot outrun them on open ground, he explained to Sarah. Must reach forest beyond valley by nightfall. Trees hide our passage. They rode hard through the afternoon, pushing their mounts to the limit of endurance. Benjamin, sensing the urgency, though not understanding its cause, remained bravely silent despite the grueling pace. As the sun began to set, they reached the edge of a pine forest that climbed the slopes of the next mountain range. We make camp here, Running Wolf decided. No fire. Cold meal only. In the gathering darkness, they arranged their bedrolls beneath the sheltering pines. The young warriors took turns standing watch, while Singing Bird prepared a medicinal tea for their aching muscles. The night passed fitfully, with Sarah starting awake at every sound, clutching Benjamin close. Dawn broke with an unsettling stillness. Even the birds seemed hesitant to announce the new day. Running Wolf returned from scouting with tension evident in his bearing. Riders camped in valley. They search pattern shows they know we head for trading post. How could they know? Sarah whispered. Someone at main camp perhaps betray, or they guess our plan. He crouched beside her. We must change route, take longer path through mountains. Will we still reach McAllister in time? Running Wolf's face was grim. If spirits favor us. They had been traveling less than an hour when disaster struck. As they crossed a steep ravine, Singing Bird's horse stumbled on loose shale, sending her tumbling to the ground with a cry of pain. Running Wolf was at her side instantly, his face tightening as he examined her leg. Broken, he announced. She cannot ride. Despair washed over Sarah. They couldn't abandon the elderly woman, yet delay meant their pursuers would certainly catch them. Singing Bird spoke firmly to her son, gesturing toward Sarah and Benjamin. Though Sarah couldn't understand the words, the meaning was clear in the old woman's resolute expression. What is she saying? Sarah asked. She say you must continue without her. Young warriors stay, protect her. You, me, Benjamin, go on. We can't leave her. Running Wolf met her gaze steadily. My mother make choice. She understand what at stake. After a tearful farewell, they pressed on. Now just the 3 of them. The terrain grew increasingly difficult as they climbed higher into the mountains. By late afternoon, dark clouds gathered ominously overhead. Storm coming, Running Wolf observed grimly. Need shelter soon. As the first fat raindrops began to fall, they spotted a small cabin nestled against the mountainside. A trapper's shelter, long abandoned but still sound enough to provide protection from the elements. They had barely settled inside when the storm broke in earnest, rain lashing against the single window, and thunder shaking the crude walls. Benjamin, exhausted from the journey, fell asleep almost immediately on a bed of pine boughs Running Wolf arranged in the corner. Will we reach the trading post tomorrow? Sarah asked, watching the rain streaming down the glass. If weather clears, yes. Half-day's ride remaining. Sarah sank onto a rough wooden stool, the emotional and physical toll of their ordeal finally catching up with her. I'm sorry I brought this trouble to your people. Running Wolf shook his head. Trouble come from men like Jackson, not from woman protecting her child. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the storm's fury and Benjamin's soft breathing. Sarah found herself studying Running Wolf's profile in the dim light, the strong lines of his face, the quiet dignity in his bearing. Why did you help us that day? She asked suddenly. You could have ridden past, left us to our fate. Running Wolf considered her question carefully. At first, because of Boy. Comanche blood calls to Comanche blood. Benjamin is Kiowa, not Comanche. Sarah reminded him gently. All children sacred. He paused, seeming to search for words. But also, I see something in you. Strength like Comanche woman. Heart that fights for what matters. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits despite their different worlds. The moment was shattered by a sound that froze their blood. Hoofbeats approaching through the storm. Running Wolf moved silently to the window, peering carefully through the rain-streaked glass. 3 riders, he whispered. Coming this way. Sarah gathered Benjamin into her arms, still mercifully asleep. Jackson's men? Cannot tell. Stay back, away from window. Running Wolf positioned himself beside the door, knife ready. The riders drew closer, voices carrying faintly through the storm. Then, unexpectedly, a call came in clear English. Hello, the cabin. Anyone shelter inside? Running Wolf and Sarah exchanged glances. The voice didn't sound threatening, but caution was necessary. Who calls? Running Wolf responded, his hand still on his knife. Name's McAllister from the trading post. Got caught in this damnable storm while tracking army patrols. Sarah gasped. McAllister, the very man we seek. Running Wolf remained cautious. Could be trick. After careful negotiation through the closed door, Running Wolf allowed the riders to enter. An older white man with a gray beard and 2 companions who appeared to be of mixed heritage themselves. McAllister took in the scene with shrewd eyes. Well now, what have we here? A Comanche warrior, a white woman, and a sleeping child. Interesting company to find in my old trapping cabin. Sarah stepped forward. Mr. McAllister, we were coming to find you. My name is Sarah Sullivan. This is Running Wolf of the Comanche, and my son Benjamin. Recognition dawned in McAllister's weathered face. Sullivan? The widow from Cottonwood Creek? There's search parties out looking for you, ma'am. Army's been told you were taken captive by Comanches. That's a lie, Sarah said firmly. Jackson and his men tried to force us from our land. Running Wolf saved us from them. We went willingly to the Comanche camp for protection. McAllister studied her face, then glanced at Running Wolf. Jackson, eh? That explains a few things. Man's been grabbing every parcel of land he can lay hands on, legal or not. He settled his large frame onto a bench, removing his dripping hat. You'd better tell me everything, Mrs. Sullivan. And you too, Running Wolf. I've known Chief Gray Eagle for 15 years. If he extended protection to this woman and child, he had good reason. Through the night, as the storm gradually abated, they shared their story. McAllister listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. By dawn, the rain had stopped, and a decision had been reached. Here's what we'll do, McAllister announced. I'll escort you to Fort Richardson myself. The new captain's green but not a fool. With my testimony about Jackson's land grabbing and your clear statement that you went with the Comanche voluntarily, we should set matters straight. And what of Running Wolf? Sarah asked anxiously. Will he be safe coming to the fort? McAllister nodded. I'll send word ahead with one of my men. Request safe passage under trader's protection. Gray Eagle and I have an understanding with the previous fort commander that should still hold. As they prepared to depart, Benjamin finally awoke, immediately curious about the newcomers. McAllister crouched to the boy's level, his gruff manner softening. Well now, young fellow, you've had quite an adventure, haven't you? Benjamin nodded solemnly. We hid in a sacred canyon, and I found an arrowhead from the ancient ones, and Singing Bird taught me Comanche words. McAllister chuckled. Sounds like you learned more in a few weeks than most people do in a lifetime. Their journey to Fort Richardson proceeded without incident. True to his word, McAllister's influence ensured their party was received peacefully, though with obvious curiosity from the soldiers. The fort commander, Captain James Wilson, listened to their account in his office, his initial skepticism gradually giving way to understanding. This is a serious accusation against Mr. Jackson, he said finally, but I've heard rumors of his methods before. If you send men to the site of Mrs. Sullivan's cabin, McAllister suggested, you'll likely find evidence of forced entry before the fire was set. And I have documentation of 3 other similar incidents on properties Jackson later claimed. Captain Wilson nodded thoughtfully. I'll investigate personally. He turned to Running Wolf. Please convey my thanks to Chief Gray Eagle for protecting